I mean, a rise in 2 temperatures and 2 degrees average temperatures of the world doesn't sound very much. And if it took place over 100 years or 200 years, you would adapt. The cities would grow in a slightly different way. You would change your agriculture in slightly different ways and so on. But if it's going to go as fast as within 20 years, you can't do that. And so there are going to be huge migrations of people to get out of bits of the earth that become uninhabitable, and sea rises. The sea will rise, and most of our great cities are all on close to sea level, and so they're going to be profound, important changes. And those are just in our behaviour. As for the natural world, what's going to happen to coral reefs and the whole balance of it's wrong to say balance, because the natural world's never in balance. It's always changing one way or the other, but it's the speed of the change that can be so damaging.
Do you think that we are slowing this speed, or we are just going straight to the...
There are signs. I mean, I have to say, I think that there are signs of certainly world opinion is changing. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And I mean, I've been talking about this for 50 years or more. And 50 years ago, people thought you know, a perfectly amiable man who happened to like butterflies and birds, and you know, not really serious. But now everybody is beginning to realise that we are part of the natural world and dependent upon the natural world. And if these things are going to change, it could upset all our values and a great deal of the civilizations of the world. I mean, what are you going to do about it if whole parts of North Africa become totally uninhabitable? What are all the people going to do? Where are they going to go? You can see the beginnings of it now. You can see, I mean, particularly in your country, more than mine. And it's all very well to be talking about being merciful and so on, and you can be merciful if it's a question of 100 or perhaps a question of 1,000. But if it's a question of 5 million people, what are you going to do?
How can we convince the world leaders to act?
We've done pretty well. I mean, COP was in Paris was pretty good. I mean, the only real problem was America, and it's sad indeed that Trump has pulled out. But there are a lot of people in America who don't agree with that, and the condition is not lost. And maybe there will be other countries who don't think it's important. You know, you can't expect the world population suddenly to take exactly the same view immediately. You have to be philosophical about it. There are a lot of people in the world with many different views, and to have got as much agreement as we did get in COP in Paris was remarkable. Young people see things in black and white very clearly, and they don't have all the conditional tenses and ifs and buts and maybes that older people do. And that means both things. I mean, they not only see the problems clearly, but they maybe don't see some of the complexities of the problems that are going to have to be solved in order to deal with in a reasonably democratic way.
As you talked also with Obama on these things, would you talk to Donald Trump too, because he is a kind of climate
well, I have no idea. It's hypothetical. I mean, from all points of view, you would think that he doesn't listen to arguments. I mean, he doesn't listen to arguments from people of his own party. So why should he listen to a nation nut from England? I mean. And I wouldn't have thought wouldn't. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't seem to me that it's possible to debate in a rational way, because he doesn't appear to be rational.
Are you more pessimistic or optimistic about the future of the...
I don't even bother to add it up. I mean, I won't be there. I mean, all I know is that if you do think you can see some distance into the future about the natural world, you have got an obligation to do what you can about it.
How important is your work in this to make people sensitive on these issues?
I can't. I mean, I can't appear to be a great prophet, you know. I mean, or indeed a great moralist. I mean, I would far rather not be making programs about this. I would far rather not be talking about this. I would far rather be sitting with a pair of binoculars and looking at a bird of paradise. I started making natural history programs because I can't think of a nicer way of spending my time. But if that is the case, then it does give you certain obligations. And if you think you can see what is happening and where things are going wrong, you have a moral obligation to speak about it.
If you can think about something that you learn about the environment, the species, the humanity during these decades, what would you pick?
What I've learned is the real relevance of our actions, of the consequences of very simple actions that all of us take and of which we don't think about.
What is the thing also that most scared you about your research and your experience? I mean,
well, I tell you, just seeing a beach in the remotest part of the world you can go to, where it is ankle deep in plastic and rubbish.
A BBC troop saved a few penguins that were trapped. And they saved them, but by someone it was considered like an intrusion in the national life. What do you think about that?
Well, of course, the obvious thing to do. If you've only got a penguin and nothing else, no other species involved, you've got a little baby penguin that's trying to get out of a hole, why shouldn't you? It doesn't make any difference to the world as to whether this penguin dies or whether it doesn't. But you feel better. You feel better if you helped it up because you are evolved to be sympathetic to life, and particularly to be sympathetic to baby creatures, and in particular to animals that have little snub noses and very big eyes. You are programmed to look after it, evolutionary, to say, oh, isn't it sweet, because that's what you do for your own.
This age, what pushes you to go on to?
Well, I could say it's because I'm carrying a flag and I have an obligation, but it's because I would rather do that than sit around in an easy chair doing nothing. I have a wonderful time. You know, I mean, in the last, how long? 5 weeks. I've been to Iceland. I've been to Costa Rica. What would you rather do? Would you rather have all kinds of things happening in life, or just sitting there waiting for the undertaker? I mean, you know.